The NFL draft in 2026 is less than a week away, and we finish up our draft preview based on the positions, running backs, and wide receivers. I'm Adam Wright. You're listening to the Fumblerooski podcast.
It may not have always showed it in the stat sheet, but you can see him making throws when he needs to make the throws.
Back-to-back games where he has 3 touchdowns. Someone's got to get that 6 or 7 spot.
He's an elite wide receiver as a rookie.
Truly a lose-lose scenario for both sides.
Welcome to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Secret Weapon Consulting. I'm Adam Wright with CJ Medeiros. So the NFL draft is less than a week away as you guys are listening to this on Friday. And so it starts on Thursday, April 23rd and goes through the 25th. And it's in Pittsburgh this year, which is a bit unusual, but it's a nice little change of pace. It seems like it's almost always in either Chicago or Indianapolis or somewhere different. Now it's in Pittsburgh. But we are going to start off on going through 2 skill positions on the offensive side of the ball. What we're going to hit on is the running back position and wide receivers. I would say both of these are intriguing as far as overall classes go in their own ways. So the running back position, correct me if I'm wrong, CJ, doesn't really, I would say, have very much depth. But it does have that one guy up who's being picked way up there. As far as the wide receivers go, it's a bit of the opposite, right? You have a lot of depth, but there isn't that one guy who's just the best of all of them, who's unequivocally the guy that is the consensus number one. There's a lot of guys who I like out of the wide receivers. And there are some pieces in the running back class, but CJ, give me your overall thoughts on these 2 positions before we dive into them in a more precise level.
So the running backs, this whole class is basically just one guy. It's Notre Dame's Jeremiah Love. He stands head and shoulders above the rest. It's kind of like Fernando Mendoza and the QB class, which we talked about a few weeks ago, where it's just him and then everyone else. And I don't see another running back going in the first round. It's going to be Love. I mean, there are some whispers that maybe Jadarian Price goes number 32 to Seattle, but I won't believe it till it happens personally. But this isn't a terrible running back class, honestly. You got guys like I said, the aforementioned Jadarian Price. There's Jonah Coleman, Mike Washington Jr., Nicholas Singleton, but I don't really have day 1 grades on any of them. Price is probably going to go round 2, but I don't see anyone else going until round 3. As for the wide receivers, it's a little more evened out. Obviously, you got the big 3 of Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, and Micaiah Lemon. Although in the final week of the draft, it's looking more like Carnell Tate is starting to pull away as the wide receiver 1. As Tyson and especially Lemon, their draft stock's been slipping a bit, but even outside of them, there are other people that have had their name thrown in the first round. Guys like Casey Concepcion out of Texas A&M, Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana, and Denzel Boston out of Washington. So yeah, this receiver class is actually better than I thought it was going to be going into the year, but there aren't any like elite, like transcendent prospects.
All right, so there you have it. There's our whole episode for today in 4 minutes. We've covered every single prospect in the entire draft. So we're all set. That's it. Of course, messing around. Okay, let's dive deep in depth about, let's cut out all the other guys and hit on tell me a little bit more in depth about Jeremiah Love, and then give me one sleeper player. Since it's really Jeremiah Love and everybody else, give me 1 or 2 sleeper guys who you think could truly be elite players or even just strong starters in the NFL.
Yeah, so Jeremiah Love at running back, he's got the pretty solid running back build that I feel like you would want, 6 feet, 212. But what I love about Jeremiah Love is his 4.36 40. And I know, we tend to overhype it a bit, but for a running back, that's huge. He has the home run speed that you want. He has outstanding balance. And on top of that, one of my favorite things about him by far is that he is a true bona fide dual threat back. He's not a running back who can catch. He is a running back that you have to respect coming out of the backfield to catch the ball. He's got natural ball tracking ability as well. And we've even seen him snag some really nice contested catches during his time at Notre Dame. And get this, the ball security is immaculate. One career fumble across 433 career carries, and he didn't lose it either. So that's obviously something you're going to drool over if you're an OC. And on top of that, well, he's not the best pass protector. I do think that he at least is willing to step up and take on blitzers with some of his biggest growth actually coming in his pass protection last season. And as far as running backs who could go high up go, I don't quite put him in that same tier as I would put guys like Bijan Robinson and Saquon Barkley in their respective drafts, but he's a solid tier below. Well, then again, this isn't like the greatest draft class, so maybe he's being inflated a tiny bit. But either way, he's very legit, and he is one of the only two true like blue chip prospects in this draft. The other one being Caleb Downs, who we talked about a few episodes ago. The only real weaknesses, as I said, he's not the best pass protector. I mean, at least he's willing, but he still has a lot to grow there. And some people think he might need to put on a few more pounds at the NFL level. I mentioned he's 212. Some would like to see him be at minimum 220, but I'm sure, once you get to the NFL, all that changes. So I don't think it's going to be quite the end of the world. So, but outside of that's pretty much it. He's one of the cleanest prospects in this entire draft, and he's understandably number one.
Yeah, and it seems like Jeremiah Love, the closer that we get to the draft, the more momentum that builds up for this guy to really be a top 10 pick. And there's plenty of players, plenty of teams out there that are looking for that top running back. I mean, what does Washington have? They have a top 10 pick in this draft. I could easily see that team being a.
The Commanders. Yeah, they have 7.
Yeah, I could easily see that team being one that goes out and gets a Jeremiah Love. And there's plenty others out there that would be a good landing spot for him. And look, scarcity drives demand. So this is all great stuff for Jeremiah Love, who's just sitting, he's sitting pretty and just looking for the team that wants him the most. And there's plenty of them. Give me one prospect or two that you think out of this running back class has the highest chance of being a bust. Give me a couple that could be traps for a team that is looking for a running back.
This isn't really the biggest, or the deepest running back class, but honestly, the one when you talk about bust, this screams bust to me by far is Emmett Johnson out of Nebraska. Don't get me wrong, I think he's a good prospect, but nothing about him blows me away. He's 5'10", 202, a little undersized, but I don't really think that matters all that much. But it's the way he tests. 4.56 40 is a running back, plays him squarely in the 50th percentile, only in the 44th percentile with his 4.29 second shuttle drill, his 10-yard split being 1.5 seconds, which plays him at the 51st percentile. He's in the 10th percentile with the 3-cone drill as well, with a 7.3 second 3-cone drill. So it's one of those things where I think he's a good college running back, emphasis on college. I don't know if that's going to translate to the league, especially since He's not really a physical specimen. You know, he's not the most athletic guy. There's a ceiling to his game, is all I'll say.
Okay.
So there's him.
Cool.
And I'm trying to bring in the other one that I'm kind of iffy on, but for some reason my computer is frozen. That's awesome. But all jokes aside, the other one that I'm not crazy about is Kentucky's Seth McGowan. So McGowan, you know, he's actually got a good build for running back, 6 feet, 223. It's just, he's a solid running back, but I think a lot of people like him, but I think his ceiling in the league is a complementary piece. If he's your RB1, I'm not really crazy about it. Even at the college level, and granted, he was playing SEC ball, but he's just not explosive. I mean, forget what I said about Emmett Johnson there out of Nebraska, but McGowan is just not explosive. He has no wiggle. He has no twitch in his game, like, at all. There's just, I believe he only had like one run of 20 or more yards in the entire 25 season, and had very few 10+ carries also. And even worse, he had 5 fumbles over the past 2 college seasons. And that is a number that I think coaches are going to hate. And he, in this draft, is one of the worst graded pass blocking backs as well. So, yeah, I would, if I were a team, I'd steer clear of McGowan too.
All right. So it seems like there's a lot of prospects out there as far as the running backs go that could very easily be busts, but there's not really many out there that, you know, are slam dunks to pan out or even close, which, you know, this appears to be a bad year to need a running back. All right, we're going to step aside quick. And next, we're going to touch on the wide receiver group. I think this is a very deep class. A lot of different intriguing prospects. A lot of them with I would say almost every one of the top prospects, which there's a lot of them, with upside to be a wide receiver 1, but it's a matter of which ones actually pan out, because I don't think there's any slam dunks either. That's next. This is the Fumblerooski podcast.
It may not have always showed it in the stat sheet, but you can see him making throws when he needs to make the throws.
Back-to-back games where he has 3 touchdowns. Someone's got to get that 6 or 7 spot.
He's an elite wide receiver as a rookie.
Truly a lose-lose scenario for both sides.
Welcome back to the Fumblerooski podcast. As I just got done gulping some water, we are touching on the wide receivers now out of the 2026 class. There's a lot of intriguing ones. Top to really early in the draft where you have Carnell Tate and Jordan Tyson. And then there's also in the middle portion with Denzel Boston. I like Chris Brazzell. That's a kid who the more I look at, the more I like. Casey Concepcion. A lot of intriguing prospects. I'm not quite sure which ones are going to pan out, top to bottom. They really all have their own sort of ups and downs. And any one of these guys could blow up, and any one of them could also be massive busts. But CJ, give me your overall thoughts on, take me through them.
So this wide receiver class, as mentioned, is pretty contentious for the top dog, but the ceiling is kind of iffy. I think the floor is solid for a lot of these guys, but the ceiling is not the highest. So there's 3 names that everyone is looking out for. Ohio State's Carnell Tate, Arizona State's Jordan Tyson, and USC's Mekhi Lemon, with most people, myself included, having Carnell Tate as their number 1 of the 3. Tate I think he's got a good build at wide receiver. Maybe he's a little slender for some. He's 6'2", 192. He's but he runs a 4.53 40, and that just lack of top line speed really doesn't wow coaches, of course. But what I like about him is the football IQ. His route running is crisp, and he always knows how to come down with the football. He effortlessly high points the football. He mosses them, as the saying says. He knows how to set up his routes. He doesn't really suffer from concentration drops that much. And even though he's not the most athletic guy, he always figures out how to make the big play. Obviously, for weaknesses, the 40 time isn't ideal. But he did miss 3 games last season with a calf strain, so maybe that's something to watch out for, although he is fine now, but that's still something that a lot of coaches might be a little squirrely about, especially for a wide receiver. Moving on to Arizona State's Jordan Tyson, once again, kind of in the same neighborhood as Tate, 6'2", 203. He's a human highlight reel. He snags in some of the most amazing catches that I've seen in college football. No matter what happens, he gets open. He has a 67% success rate, I believe, on contested catches. So what does that tell you? He knows how to win those 50-50 balls. And he had 3 fourth quarter touchdowns last season as well, meaning he's got that dog in him. The only reason that he is not wide receiver 1 in this draft, injuries. He's had 2 really bad knee injuries, or 2 really bad injuries, period. One to his knee and one to his collarbone across his collegiate career. And to this day, as we speak right now, at least during the pre-draft process, he still allegedly has a lingering hamstring problem. And So team doc, and it literally says on NFL Draft Buzz, and I quote, "Team doctors are going to earn their money with this one." In fact, he didn't go to he skipped the combine and Arizona's pro day with the hamstring injury. So Jordan Tyson, I think, has some really good upside. He's one of those good highlight reel type receivers, but good God, I don't know what it is. He cannot stay healthy. And then, of course, there's Makai Lemon from USC. He's another one where he doesn't have the top flight speed that everybody would love. He has a 4.5 40, which that's just been a running theme across all 3 of the top receivers. But the issue with him is that he's 5'11", 192, and many coaches see him solely as a slot guy. His hand size in the 21st percentile, his arm length's in the 22nd, his wingspan's in the 15th. Everything about his game, his build, his speed, his everything screams slot receiver. And look, his size is what it is, and his role is going to be what it is. He definitely has a ceiling. But I like that he doesn't let that hamper him. He has a savant level understanding of leverage. He works corners very well, and his hands are super reliable, and his cuts are crisp. His breaks are sharp. He effortlessly finds soft spots in the zone. He knows the defense better than some of the defenders do. So he's got a high football IQ and elite route running, which he's going to need to, make up for his obvious shortcomings in the physicality department.
Yeah. And as far as Makai Lemon goes, I think my biggest reservation is he is undersized, so he will be limited to being a slot receiver, even if he does pan out. But usually if you're undersized, you really have to make up for it in other areas. And if he has a 4.5 40
4.5 flat, yes.
Yes, it's a little lackluster, and it scares me a little bit because, again, you should be able to make up for that lack of size in other areas. And there's only so much that just simply quickness can do, the explosiveness, because then you're still going to get run down if you don't have that speed. So doesn't have the speed, doesn't have the size. And if you remember that interview during the combine, I don't know if the guy's all there. I mean,
Yeah, that's another problem too. He apparently really bombed his pre-draft interviews. Like, coaches were not impressed with it at all. We don't know what was said. We don't know what happened. But if reports are to be believed, apparently he just doesn't interview well.
I mean, he bombed his public interviews. If you just watch him,
Oh yeah, I saw that.
that guy did not look like he was all there. And I mean, it seems like it's all name recognition right now, the media, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is the type of player that could slide. He could fall a little bit in this draft. The more I look at Carnell Tate, the more I really like him, though. And I know he doesn't have the best of speed, but again, every other piece of it, he is elite at. And the speed, what does he run? A 4.5, 4.6?
4.53 specifically.
Right. You know who else ran a 4.5? Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I just don't think you'd need it that badly. I know I just got done trashing Makai Lemon over it, but it's still important. It's kind of important. And at least Carnell Tate is elite at everything else. That's my point. With Carnell Tate, if he runs a 4.5 40, but he can do everything else on an elite level, I think we have a wide receiver 1. He kind of reminds me a little bit of names escaping me from last year. Teteroa McMillan, guy who we weren't high on because of the lack of speed, but everything else he did very well. And he turned into a wide receiver 1, at least this year. He looks pretty good. So maybe we're seeing a bit of a trend where players who have the size, who are good at or who are great at everything else, but not quite have the speed, pan out a little more than we thought. I know that Keon Coleman didn't, but we saw it from McMillan. We saw it from the Quentin Johnson somewhat. So I don't know. Maybe there's a bit of a trend where we don't need speed quite as much as we once did out of wide receivers. And Jordan Tyson, I think is the safest bet. I know his injury issues are there, but he is young, so he does have time to figure it out. And if the only thing that's keeping him from being the number 1 receiver is injuries, that's something that can very, very easily, with professional training and strength and conditioning, could very easily be fixed. Not saying it will, but if that's the only issue with him for a young kid, I don't know. I think that's something that can be fixed. So, tell me a little bit about, because I really like Chris Brazzell, and I'll give you my analysis, and then I can bounce that off of you. Great size, elite speed, elite separation. The only 2 issues that he has overall is injury concerns. He does have a tendency he is a little, as far as his frame goes, I like his height, but his frame is a little slender, and he has a tendency to have some concentration drops. I think the concentration drops can be coached out of him. I think with better training and conditioning, he can really build up his frame, and he won't be as much of an injury issue. I like Chris Brazzell. I think he's the most underrated player in this draft, but you tell me a little bit.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I I will tell you though, I don't understand why he's not a first round prospect. If it's really the weight and the concentration drops are a problem, and I guess like maybe the shoulder injury too, then why is that hurting Jordan Tyson as much? Because consider this, he's 6'4", 198. That's a bit of, those are some interesting proportions. Like I said, he can bulk up at the next level. Players do that all the time. Another thing coaches don't like, apparently, is his 9-inch hand size, which puts him squarely in the 31st percentile. But they said the same thing about Jamar Chase, and he turned out okay. But what I do like is his 80-inch wingspan, which puts him, I believe, in the 88th percentile as well for receivers. And that 4.37 40 just is great. He's got the speed. He's got the quickness. He has the ability to high point the ball. He has an insane catch radius. He gets off his routes fast. His sideline catches are things of beauty. He has insane body control. So outside of the concentration drops, I think we're looking at a pretty polished receiver. But part of me feels like maybe if he was playing for like Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, not like Tennessee, he probably might be a little bit higher on a lot of people's boards.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I think the injuries aren't an issue for me with Jordan Tyson. But it certainly has hit Chris Brazzell a little bit. And yeah, maybe it is a bit of a school bias. Teams, wide receivers that come out of specific schools, they have, if they're elite, they have a better chance of going higher up in drafts, right? Rome Odunze went to Washington, and Marvin Harrison Jr. went to Ohio State. Marvin Harrison Jr. was drafted 4th overall, a few picks ahead because Ohio State, and also was at the time considered a generational wide receiver prospect, who there's a lot to be desired there. And Rome Odunze, so far from what I've seen, I think he's been a little better than Marvin Harrison Jr. And I wonder if the players were swapped, would we be seeing the same results if one was on a different on the other school, right? And Marvin Harrison Jr., his name is Marvin Harrison Jr., right? So there's that. He's the son of a Hall of Fame player, but I'm not quite sure how much that alone is going to make a difference, because we've been seeing a little nepotism that has not really come to fruition as far as being drafted high. Specifically last season with a certain player. So I'm not quite sure. I definitely think there is a little bit of a school bias. I think that's the point that I'm making there.
Yeah. There is one more thing, though, that I think we need to talk about as far as school bias goes. Tennessee wide receivers are starting to get the same reputation as Ohio State quarterbacks, especially when the two most notable Tennessee wide receivers in recent vintage were Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt. So they're kind of starting to fall into that group of, oh, this school, when they pump them out, but it's really more so quantity over quality.
Yeah. And you have every year. It seems like there's somebody who's a top prospect out of that school, and it seems like every single year they end up being a bust. So, not quite sure how that's going to get sorted out. I think wide receiver is a little more independent of the school as far as results go, just because when you're a quarterback, there's a lot of different systemic offensive scheme things that go on. Whereas if you're a wide receiver, it's a little more independent and it has more to do with yourself. That's why a lot of wide receivers tend to be selfish. It's more so about their stats. When they're getting the ball, what happens? You run your routes. You obviously have your offensive system that you're part of, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not quite, you're not the centerpiece of the entire offense like the quarterback is. So, you have Ohio State. That's a more developmental issue with quarterbacks, whereas if you're a wide receiver, not quite the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 110%.
All right. I think we've covered most of the real top prospects, but do you have any other thoughts before the end of the show?
No, not really. I mean, I could just go through my top 10 at each position real quick if you want. Just fire them off, just cause.
Sure, why not?
Yep. For running backs, obviously number 1 is Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame. My number 2 is the Robin to his Batman from Notre Dame, Jadarian Price. My number 3 is Jonah Coleman from Washington. Number 4, Nicholas Singleton from Penn State. Number 5, Mike Washington Jr. from Arkansas. Number 6, Katron Allen from Penn State. Number 9, Demond Claiborne, or no, number 8, sorry. Is Claiborne or Demond Claiborne from Wake Forest. Then number 9 is Emmett Johnson from Nebraska. And number 10 is Jamari Taylor from Virginia. Wide receivers. Number 1 is Carnell Tate from Ohio State. My number 2 is Jordan Tyson from Arizona State. Number 3, Mekhi Lemon from USC. Number 4, KC Concepcion from Texas A&M. This might be a little spicy, but number 5 is Chris Brazzell II from Tennessee. 6, Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana. 7, Denzel Boston from Washington. 8, Zachariah Branch from Georgia. Number 9, Chris Bell from Louisville. And then my number 10 is Jeremy Bernard from Alabama.
I like the pull with Chris Bell. And I feel like that's a player who's knocking at the door at 10, at the top 5 if he didn't get injured.
Absolutely.
And another player who's really between the statistics, between his size and frame, his speed, all of those things really were first round worthy. And I wonder if that's a player who's even going to go round 2.
It's very possible. Late round 2.
Late round 2, even 3. That's a player that's a player worth taking a flyer on, and a player who I really liked before he kind of tore up his knee. So
yeah, understandably so.
Absolutely. All right. Any other thoughts before we end the show tonight?
No. I'm all good over here. We got our mock draft next episode though. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Be sure to tune into our mock draft episode. We've done that every year where we give you exactly how the order of the first round is going to go. It goes exactly how you would expect for every single mock draft that's ever been created in the history of mock drafts between podcasters and so-called experts. As you know, the NFL draft is a bit of a crapshoot, but we're going to give it our best shot and give you exactly who we think is going to go in the first round and the exact order of how it's going to happen. But that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. We have all our episodes on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and so much more. Be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our coverage and the latest on the NFL. Be sure to follow our YouTube channel as well, Fumblerooski Podcast. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Over and out.